What's happening, guys? We're back. We didn't get to do the finish reveal of the Jackson Take 2, the full setup. We're gonna go over what's probably the second most important part to the first one, which was installing an internal um, cabling system with tubing for the rudder system for the Torpedo, which is probably number one for this boat. The boat paddles really well and it pulls pretty good, but the Torpedo just makes this boat excel more. So we're gonna go over probably the second key element and a full rundown of how I set this boat up. But we're gonna start off with probably the biggest hack I've done to this boat, which was install a false floor on the area that I like to stand. Most kayaks are kind of contoured. They have scuppers. They got stuff in the way. No matter how flat the boat is, floors have to have some type of rigidity, so they tend to limit areas that are flat. But this gave me full dexterity. I could do 360s, move around on the boat. My feet are not fatigued, and it gives a little more integrity to the boat as far as structural wise goes. And it's just an easy platform for me to stand on. It's easy to take on and off. I mean, some people say it's not a necessity, but honestly, I think it is. It takes a lot of pressure off that floor, especially around the scuppers. The plastic, after a while, starts giving way. It's just the nature of the game. Fortunately, this design that I made was inexpensive. It was easy to build and easy to install, and this boat lends itself to doing it. Since it's a two-person boat that can be converted into a one-person boat, there's plenty of track rail on the floor. So we're gonna dive into the boat. I'm gonna do a full rundown of how I set my boat up and why I did certain things and why I think this is probably the ultimate boat for someone that's a bigger person or wants to carry a lot of weight, like a lot of tournament guides. A lot of tournament guys want to carry some extra weight. They got the extra batteries. They got all the features they need, all the displays, and wants to carry a ton of gear. This boat eats it all up. I've had two people on the boat while I'm pulling in the back and Klein in the front, and this boat just chews up weight, and the more weight you put on it, the better stability it seems to handle, and it seems to perform even better the more weight you put. I think it's just a boat that it's overlooked since it's kind of rated for a two-person boat, but I think converted into a one-person boat, this boat excels. There's a few things that I wish this boat had, which is rear and front hatches, but we kind of resolved that situation with some of the more hacks that I did to this boat to kind of give myself that room that I need to store stuff and keep things out of the way. I tend to like clean decks, open boats where there's really nothing to it. I like open pallets where I can kind of design my boat on the top and put what I need. Now, granted, like everything else, I wish there were some features on this boat that are not present on this boat, but I wish they had it. But we deal with what we got. I mean, there's no perfect boat out there unless someone designs a boat for you that has everything you need. And even then, you'll probably end up finding things that you could do and change on a boat. So let's dive into the boat. So right here is probably the second most important, crucial part of this whole boat's integrity and why this boat functions for me. So basically what I did is that I went online and I looked for a system that could work. So I didn't find one. So I designed one. The boat comes ready for two seats. There's a seat here, seat in the back, but we're gonna we made this into a convertible. So we're making it into a one-person boat. And I didn't want to stand on the plastic. I stand a lot, I push-pull a lot down here in South Florida. So I spend 8-9 hours sometimes standing on these boats. And after a certain amount of time, the floor starts giving. It's granted, it happens, I think, in every boat, especially when you're fixed on one location and you're digging in your heels and you're adjusting and making these micro adjustments with waves and current, and you're just putting added pressure on the boat. So I wanted to make a design that gives the boat a little bit more integrity and keeps me off that floor. So I figured the seat is supposed to take a good portion of your weight. The rails are there for a reason, and I haven't had any issues, obviously, on the seat. So I went online and I looked up a couple sites, and I ended up buying some plastic. I bought some HPDE or Marine Starboard. I went ahead and bought some Marine Starboard. It's 3/8. I figured it wouldn't flex, but it would just give me just enough rigidity and keep the weight down that it could take my weight. And so far, this has been dynamic on this boat. So I used the tri-rails. I cut out an area, which took all of like 5 minutes, where I can still slide this up and down and still have access to the scuppers, which are important to me. I like dry boats, but obviously in a wet situation, or I'm taking on rain or waves, I need to pull the plugs. I still have access to it. I don't have to lift this or take this off completely. I did the same design in the back. I cut out 90-degree inserts where I can slide it in real flush against the seat, where my feet are always on this. So even when I'm sitting down cruising, or I want to go from a seated position to a standing position, the deck is accessible. It's right there. It's quick. I can stand up and I could do literally a 360 on this boat and nothing gives. So most of the pressure is put on the rails, and it just gives a little bit less flexibility to the boat. It gives it more rigidity. So basically, this has been number one and number two. So this has been a huge asset to my fishing. It helps a lot. People wonder why I did it, and it's a useless piece of material. I think otherwise. I think this is crucial. It makes the boat that much better. It just helps you out in a million ways. I can reach over, help out clients. I can stand. It's just a sturdy platform in an area where it gets about 90% of my weight and traction and just work. So it's a flat surface that I can work on. It takes off fatigue off my feet, and it's just detrimental, I think. I ended up porting holes, measuring everything out, using quick little fasteners. So if I do have to take it out, it takes all of like 10 seconds to take off. It's unscrew, lift up the board. Guys, it doesn't add an excess amount of weight to the boat. It's pennies to the dollar as far as weight. It probably adds maybe another 5-6 pounds of weight, if that, to the boat. But it adds rigidity, it adds stability as far as standing, and it takes a lot of pressure off everything on the boat. I don't have to stand on near scuppers. No matter how much foam and no matter how much insulation inside the boat, the plastic's always going to bend and it's always going to flex, because it's just the nature of plastic. So this eliminates all of that completely. So all the pressure is put on the rail, and that's where most of the rigidity of the boat is, because it's meant for a seat. So I figured this would just add more rigidity, just like the seat, because that's what it's there for, and the boat is designed to take on the seat in this area. So this, for this boat, is probably clutch. I wish I was able to formulate something like this on my old boat on the big rig. This would have been detrimental on that boat, I think, too, and it would have helped a lot on the flooring, especially standing so much. I've gone down the boat. I've gone down that slippery slope, filling it in with expanding foam and high density foam to pack it in there to make the floor rigid. No matter how much you do that, the foam ends up starting to wear down and give up, and the floor just eventually, out of wear and tear and just the elements, the floor just ends up giving, and you end up getting cracks. This is theoretically going to eliminate that. I've stood on it and I've looked at it, and it just takes all the flex away from these pivotal points, these structural pivotal points on the boat. With a lot of these boats that are coming out, especially in the Jackson, since they're given open layouts, they're understanding, these companies are understanding that a lot of guys want to stand up and have accessibility to walk around. This, I think, is probably one of the most crucial benefits to the boat. I've been on many other boats, natives, Hobies, and although the floors are flat, eventually, again, the plastic starts wearing down just because of just normal wear and tear from people flexing on it and moving and doing these micro adjustments on the water. You're digging your heels in, And I'll give you an example. My big rig, it has the shape of my heel basically on one end, where I put a lot of firm weight on that side where I'm balancing or I'm push pulling. I tend to like to push pull off my right because I'm righty, and my left takes a lot of balance because I'm counteracting a lot. So there's basically a hole where my heel is dug into that boat. But this eliminates all that. There's just enough flex on this 3/8 that allows it to bend a little bit, but still gives it a hair of flexibility. But it's not enough to really bend down and flex where you're putting pressure on the deck. And again, it gives the boat some more integrity. All right, guys, we're gonna start off front. I did kind of a replicate here. I use a more starboard. I cut it out in the design of the front of the boat and use more Yak Attack mounts and use the rails of the actual boat here to tie in. So basically, this is more of a storage area for me to put my anchors, for me to lean on if I have to reach up and grab something or help out a customer from the front, a client. And then it gives me access across the boat here to put some more Yak Attack mounts with the rail and the pan to put my GoPro and my camera mounts up here. And then it kind of gives me storage in the bottom. So we're gonna go off more Yak Attack mounts. And then as far as the railing goes, I use the 90-degree rails to put my foot pedals for the motor on the outside rails. You can see it right here. Same system on the opposite end for the push pull. Same rails. The 90-degree lifts them up just enough where your feet are nice and comfortable against this, and you can kick. Then I went ahead, put my throttle on the actual seat frame of the Jackson seat where I'm sitting. I have easy access to the remote. I can see what's going on. As far as storage goes, I went ahead and used the Jackson underseat storage. I took the front bar off, and gives me access to more storage down here. So I can store more stuff underneath my seat without a hitch. And then I run the Planos 3700 underneath the seat, the big bins. So I carry soft plastics and hooks and miscellaneous stuff, and then more miscellaneous stuff down here. And then I have my leader box down here. And then moving to the actual seat, I usually run it on the high seat. I have real good stability. I don't feel tippy, so I tend to always stay in the high seat. Then followed up, I got the Jackson rod holders where I'll lay rods flush on the side, run them back. I can run them forward if I wanted to, but I usually run them down and away from me. And then we're going to move down to the tri-track where they're mounted. Run my tilt and trim for the motor and my lock. The rear of the boat is pretty simple. Behind the seat, I just carry something clipped there, a little fish grip for clients every once in a while. And I went ahead and added another piece of marine board, 1/4 to the bottom floor here. Since I do stand in the backpack here every once in a while, I figured that I would reinforce this area as well too, just like I did in the front. I used the tie downs where the seat goes, you can see right here, and then put round hooks. We're gonna put the round hooks from Yak Attack to hold down the plate. And this kind of takes some of the pressure off as well too. I can stand back here since I limit myself from standing back here. I figured this would help. And then of course, let's move on to a new acquisition this year that I've been using. It's the 16x16 Yak Attack crate. This thing is pretty damn cool. I have plenty of room to put my cameras, my water, my food, extra gear. So basically this is just an outside storage where every once in a while I'll put in my bait bucket in here if I'm holding crabs. Keep them out of the sun. I can put all my camera boxes in here as well too. I can mount all my camera boxes in here and put all my Pelican cases in here and keep everything out of the way. I still have room to put my 1-gallon Yeti in here and my lunch lunchbox with my juice box in there and everything else that I need. There's plenty of storage. Then it comes with 6 rod tubes, which I've mounted on the side where I can carry all my rods. I have it tied down with more Yak Attack mounts that come, and then we're gonna move on to the rear. So in the rear of the boat of the Take 2, I made a custom canvas cover. I used more Yak Attack products to hold it down. I used the bungee system and kind of made a cover for the rear of the boat. And this is where I store my battery for the Take 2. I mean, this is where I store the battery for the Torpedo with the crate. Battery goes in here, all the cabling is in here. I carry an extra water pump in here, but honestly guys, this has been detrimental. This canvas sheds water off, keeps the battery out of the elements for the most part. Guys, this is the Take 2 from Jackson in a nutshell. This is how I have my setup. Doesn't mean that it's the right setup, but honestly, this setup works for me, and it's worked in the past for me, especially down here in South Florida. I enjoyed building these boats out. It's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but I like fine-tuning it, and this is kind of the layout that has been working for me down here in South Florida. So hopefully you guys learned something. There's a couple little things here and there that I think applies across the board to everybody, and especially with this layout and this type of boat, which is kind of an open pallet, and it gives you ability to put on so much weight and so much stuff on the boat. And with a couple of the little accessories that I've custom built or modified, I think it just opens the palette more for this boat, and it makes it a very versatile boat for just about everybody, from big to small. Again, you have the ability to put 2 people on the boat or build it as a convertible like I did to 1 person. So it's kind of my boat in a nutshell. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Remember, like, subscribe, helps my channel out, gives me a good litmus test, especially when you guys comment what else to produce. We should have some stuff coming down the pipe. I'm going to be out in the Everglades in a few days, trying to rescout some new areas that I haven't touched since the winter, looking for some snook, some tarpon. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for tuning in, guys. See you guys later.